Don't settle for bad socks. Get comfort and grip at an affordable price with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Choose from 18 different colors at puregripsocks.com.
What's great about the current football boot market is there's a wide variety of really great options to choose from, where I really do believe there is something for everybody out there, and in some cases, multiple great options to choose from. However, that is not to say that everything is great, because amongst all of the amazing options out there, there are definitely certain football boots that, in my opinion, you should probably avoid. Which is why in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my picks for the top 5 football boots you should not buy, along with what you should buy instead. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that you couldn't play well in any of these 5 boots, but what I am saying is objectively, there are better options out there. So if you're on the market for something new, why not get the best you can for the same amount of money or less, rather than buy something that just isn't very good compared to the alternative? And really quickly, before we get started, if you enjoy these types of videos, don't forget to drop a like and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. We're actually going to start this list off with an honorable mention in the UMBRO TOCCO 3 Pro, a football boot that did not crack the top 5 because I don't think many people need to be warned not to buy them, considering that they retail for $300, making them one of the most expensive football boots currently on the market. And for that $300 asking price, there is nothing about the materials, the features, or the general feel and performance of the football boot that makes that price justified whatsoever. At a budget that effectively buys you anything out there, period, this should never be on your list of considerations. And honestly, even at half the price, I still don't think they're necessarily justified. $300 and one of the studs is molded on an angle. And no, it's not supposed to be like that. The Nike Tiempo Legend 10 Elite is actually a phenomenal pair of football boots. And even though it does have its haters, because this is the first Tiempo Legend model to go full synthetic rather than offering a premium kangaroo leather upper, what they have on offer here in the Fly Touch Plus synthetic material is really impressive and surprisingly leather-like. From a performance, quality, and general feel standpoint, there's very little that I have to complain about here in regards to the Legend 10 Elite. However, its $230 price tag, which is actually fairly reasonable amongst top-end models these days, is not justified because of the existence of the Legend 10 Pro that sits below it. For $140, the Legend 10 Pro effectively offers 99% of the same experience as what you're going to get from the Elite model. So for $90 less, instead of Fly Touch Plus, you're getting Fly Touch Pro, which effectively is the exact same synthetic leather upper with a little bit of additional padding added to the inside liner that you might actually prefer. You'll also notice that the knitted material is slightly different, but not by much, and the plastic in the sole plate is slightly different as well, which adds literally 3 or 4 grams to the overall weight of the product. But for $90 less than the Elite model, you are not going to notice any difference whatsoever unless you literally had a Pro on one foot and an Elite on the other. I'm not saying that the Elite isn't justified at all, but if it were my money, having tried both, the Pro is just as good, if not better, depending on your personal preferences. The Puma Future Ultimate is another amazing pair of football boots, and amongst top-end models, actually pretty reasonably priced at $220. Its textile kind of mesh-based synthetic upper feels very soft and sock-like on feet. With the laces tied tight, they're one of the more comfortable football boots currently on the market, and the sole plate and stud pattern is also super underrated. So why do I not recommend that you buy these? Well, once again, the takedown model is pretty much the exact same thing for a lot less money. Because for $140, you can buy the first takedown model in the Future lineup called the Future Pro. It's a football boot that, as you can see, features an upper that is virtually identical to what you'll find on the top-end Ultimate, however, at a price tag that is $80 less expensive. The feel of the upper, the shaping of the football boot, the comfort, the fit, everything is pretty well the same. The only differences you're going to find is that because of the slightly different plastic in the sole plate, these once again weigh a few grams more than the top end model, and the stud pattern is also slightly different, incorporating a little bit more conical studs in the layout rather than featuring all blades, which might actually be to your preference. So if you're just on the market for the comfort and sock-like feel of the Puma Future, save some money, don't go for the Ultimate, go for the Future Pro. If I ask you to picture a pair of speed boots, you'd probably think of the Nike Mercurials or a pair of Adidas X's, but I think one of the more underrated options in the speed category right now is actually from MIZUNO in the form of the Made in Japan MIZUNO Alpha. It's their first full synthetic football boot in quite a number of years, and one that fits incredibly well, offers such a premium barefoot feel on the ball, and kind of typical of the MIZUNO brand, just is incredibly comfortable considering what it is. It's also one of the lightest football boots on the market, and the sole plate and stud pattern that comes along with this offers top tier aggressive traction. The only issue with this boot, the price tag, $320, basically making it the most expensive boot on the market. And even though the quality is second to none, as you'd expect from most made in Japan MIZUNO product, you shouldn't buy them. And that's because MIZUNO also makes a non-made in Japan variation, this being the MIZUNO Alpha Elite, where instead of $320, this boot retails for $200, making it less expensive than just about every other top-end speed boot option on the market. But from a fit, feel, performance, and quality perspective, you would have a hard time telling apart this Elite model from the significantly more expensive made in Japan variation. So if you're just after one of the best value for money top-end speed boots on the market right now, you cannot go wrong with the MIZUNO Alpha Elite. At the 2 spot, we don't necessarily have a single pair of boots, but more so an entire category, particularly laceless takedown models from Adidas as well as Puma. While all of these boots are a lot less expensive than the top-end laceless alternatives, if we use the Crazy Fast 0.3 laceless as an example, this boot retails for $100 versus the Crazy Fast 0.1 laceless, which retails for $270. That's almost 3 times as much. However, as I've often talked about as it relates to laceless football boots, they're very difficult to get right even with premium materials. So when you're talking about a takedown model where cheaper materials are almost guaranteed, the end result is a pair of football boots that typically doesn't fit very well, doesn't offer very good lockdown, and the comfort is often something that really does suffer at these lower price points. And even at $100, being a lot less expensive than the top end option, this is at the higher end of this second tier takedown model price point, where for $80, sometimes even $70, you can get the exact same football boot with laces that's going to fit better, be a lot more comfortable, and ultimately perform significantly better than these more expensive laceless takedown alternatives. I understand that the laceless thing appeals to a lot of people, but trust me when I say if you really want a pair of laceless boots, save up and maybe buy last year's top end model that's now been discounted, or honestly, just save some money and go for the same version of the football boot with a lacing system. It's just going to be so much better. And then finally, at the 1 spot, we have a pair of football boots that unfortunately I think a lot of people will be tricked into buying, and that is the Adidas X Crazy Fast 0.2, the first takedown model in the new X lineup, bearing a retail price of $160, which is not cheap for a pair of football boots, and certainly not cheap for a pair of takedown models. And for that amount of money, I think most people would expect to get something that is fairly premium in terms of feel as well as overall performance. But unfortunately, in the case of the Crazy Fast 0.2, that could not be further from the truth. While the upper does offer a relatively thin barefoot feel similar to the more expensive options, that's about where the similarities end, because the overall comfort and fit of the boot is just off compared to the more expensive variations and off compared to other football boots that cost significantly less. The sole plate and stud pattern, while the stud pattern is the same, the sole plate is significantly more flexible and doesn't give you any of that spring back effect. And being in the speed category, especially nearing the $200 price point, you'd expect the Crazy Fast 0.2 to at least be very light, but in fact, it is one of the heaviest football boots currently on the market. As an alternative to the $150 Nike Zoom Mercurial Vapor 15 Pro, you would honestly be crazy not to go for the Nikes, or at the very least, if you have $160 to spend, consider last year's top-end options that have now been discounted, because I guarantee you they're going to offer a better overall experience and certainly a lighter overall weight than the very heavy Crazy Fast 0.2.